Kev, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
How you doing?
good, good. And how does it feel to come back to your stomping ground?
I mean, it feel good. It always feel good.
Mhm.
Coming back to the hood. This where it all started at right here. So it's
Right.
always good to come back through.
For the people that don't know where we at, can you explain where we at and the significance of this place where we at right now for you?
Well, where we at right now, we are in Shutterlawn, Florida, as y'all can see. And a lot of people, the new era, they know it as Little Haiti,
Hmm.
but actually, it's Shutterlawn, Florida, because the school right there to my left, that's a school that I actually went to in elementary. And that school been here for decades. So, coming up, all I knew was Shutterlawn, Florida from, my mama, my aunties, my uncles. But then as the world became to know, this was all my Haitian descent. This where they actually came at when they came from Haiti. Shutterlawn was their first stop. So Shutterlawn, Florida just became to be known as Little Haiti. But this area here is definitely um, plays a big part in my life and my upbringing. So Shutterlawn, Florida, this is where it's at, and I'm definitely putting Shutterlawn on my back.
Nah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy because I pass through here all the time. It's just every time the people I know out here, it's just so much history. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like Edison right there, not too far from here, 54th Street and everything. So it's just crazy. For the people that don't know you, excuse me, for the people that don't know who you are yet, introduce yourself. Who is Second Ave Cav?
Well, second Ave Kav, born and raised in Miami, Florida. Actually, born and raised right here in Shutterlawn, Florida. A lot of people know me as Law, Circle K, Kev, but Second Ave Kav is definitely who all those different individuals embody. You know.
No, for sure, for sure. So before we dive into your life, I noticed well how I got notice of you was YouTube, and it was just random, like it just popped. I saw Miami Boys. I'm like, okay, let me check it out because I know about the history between that.
Yeah.
And one video just turned to me looking at your whole catalog, and I was
Yeah.
like, yo, you got so much history describing the real Miami history that a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know about because I'm a photographer, so documenting the hoods of Miami and just
Yeah.
knowing the history. Like I was just the other day, I was with a friend, my friend's mom. She was like, "Yo, you're 28 years old. How the hell you know about Pac Jam? How you,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like all
Yeah.
those different things." But it's because my family told me about the history. So
Yeah.
that's what made me gravitate to you in the YouTube space. So how did you end up starting to get into the YouTube space to tell your story about your life?
So it's funny that you say Pac Jam.
Hmm.
So maybe a couple of years ago, me and my daughters, we was actually riding down 54th Street. And as we coming up on 12th Avenue, I happened to just look at this building. And I tell my daughters, I say, okay, well, that's an art gallery now, or I think it's a church.
Right.
And my youngest daughter asked me, well, Daddy, what was that back in the days?
Right.
And I said, well, that's Pac Jam. So, but they only know it as what the Pac Jam reunion. And
Right.
I was like, well, actually, yeah, but the Pac Jam reunion, this way it originated from right here. And my daughter asked me, well, Daddy, how old was you when y'all was going? I was like, we were like 14, 15 years old.
Right.
So, and I'm going somewhere with this. So she was like, well, Daddy, y'all was that young going out? And I was like, yeah, back in the 80s, this where it all started at right here. Well, of course, with Uncle Luke.
Right.
So that conversation, it kind of died down. But then later on that night, my daughter called me back and she was like, Daddy, man, I'm just sitting around with mama and my aunties and everything. And she said, Daddy, they were saying like certain things. And she said, Daddy, I'm telling you, in a million years, we never would have thought, and how they say today, you was outside like that. Because, me doing what I was doing, whatever, and we'll get to that. They never was privy to nothing of my
Right.
before life.
Right.
But it's funny that you said Pac Jam because it stemmed from that question. And from that question, it kind of just, piqued their interest. So later on that night, she was like, Daddy, you ever thought about, telling your story? And I was like, I don't know about that. She was like, I'm telling you, Daddy. It's like really nobody really telling, the backdrop of the history of the crib.
Right.
So she was like, Daddy, just think about it. So I was like, well, I wouldn't know where to start at. So she was like, "Don't worry, we got you." Because they young and they definitely is all about this new era and they
Right.
know how it goes. So she was like, "Daddy, don't worry, give us the green light, and we definitely gonna walk you through everything." But actually, it started from riding by the Pack Jam on 54th Street and 12th
Yeah, that's
Avenue.
ironic. That's
Yeah, and it's
ironic.
funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, yeah. So, talking about even when you talked about your daughters and telling them like how it was back then or whatever the case may be, what was Miami like back then versus now?
Well,
Big difference for sure.
yeah, big difference, and it was definitely more. How can I say it without being politically correct? It was definitely um, more black.
Right,
I mean, and now this hood here, and this hood, it means so much to me because Chatelaine, Florida, always been diverse. We always had, of course, the African Americans. We always had my Haitians.
right,
Always had Cubans and Puerto Ricans. You know, to make it plain and simple, all of us, we are one.
right,
But it always been for the blackness. Like for instance, the vacant lot behind us right there, it used to be a Cuban store right there. And I used to work there when I was like 9 or 10 years old. They're sweeping up the floor.
wow,
All this right here, this whole strip plaza was black owned. This whole strip plaza right here. You got all the black churches and everything. So the difference between back then and now, it was blackness everywhere. As opposed to now, you know, now we got, because back in the 70s, of course, white flight took place.
right,
So when I was born, we came up. Only thing I seen was people that looked like me. I mean, to be honest, to be
yeah,
real with it. Now it's like it's going back. It's coming back full circle, and now we got the other side. They walking their dogs and they riding their bikes and all that. When 30, 40 years ago, we wouldn't have seen that.
right,
But the difference is back then, it was definitely the mindset, the culture was different. The attitudes, the respect, everything was definitely different. Definitely right now as opposed to what it is now. Growing up, it was definitely beautiful. You know, we respected our elders, we respected the neighbors.
right,
The way this era go about doing things now, that was unheard of back in those days.
right,
So it's definitely a big difference between now and how it is today.
right, right. And even this one video, I forgot which one it was. You were talking about how Miami influenced a lot of things of culture. Like even when you talked about when you went to New York at that party, and you was like talking about how like the Dapper Dan stuff was coming along and stuff like that. But you was
Yeah.
like, that was fugazi. Like, it's like our style. And my next question is pretty much saying how much influence do you think Miami impacted throughout today's culture?
Well, it definitely impacted a lot, and I try to really stamp that when I'm talking in all my videos because, you gotta understand, Miami always been, a melting pot of all different ethnicity groups. Everybody always wanted to come to Miami
Right.
for a decade. Of course, we got the beaches, we got all the different foods and everything, but I always tell everybody, Miami always was IG before IGE much became a thing. We was Instagram before Instagram was even thought of.
Right.
Because we done been, Miami natives, we done been, whether it's from the street backdrop, whether blue collar, white collar, we done went everywhere. And it's like everywhere we go, it's like, social media, contrary to what social media says today, everywhere that Miami went, they always just been in awe of the way we carried ourselves. And it's like when we go places, it's like it's normal.
Right.
It's normal to us. It's normal to us. It could be either New York City, it could be California, and no shade to Cali because they definitely got their own culture over there.
Right.
But it's like everywhere we went, it's like we
stand out.
We stand out. So we definitely always had an impact on everywhere we went because, like I say, everywhere we went, they always ask, man, how it is down there. It's so fast down there, because you got to understand, To be honest with you, we definitely Miami was built on cocaine.
Yeah, built off drugs.
And with that come the fast life. And to touch back on what you said about how we went to the party up there and they had all of the fake this and that, we never seen that. We never seen that. I
And
mean,
this is pre-internet, so you
yeah,
didn't really...
this is pre-internet.
Yeah.
So I can remember coming home from school, and right here on this very corner, maybe in the early '80s, '83 and '84, I can remember seeing all the OGs right here, and they would be sitting on their Gucci BMWs and their Gucci Cadillacs, and all this stuff was brand new from Bremen off the showroom floor.
Yeah, right.
So
there.
now, when we go to New York and we see all this, and we was like, no, you can't. That Nissan didn't make that with a Gucci, and so it was just kind of different for us. But I was like, nah, Miami always been authentic. We always came with the real. So like when we go other places, other places really don't fascinate us. They don't turn us on,
Right.
and that's what make everybody was like, man, y'all just different. A lot of stuff really don't move y'all. So Miami always made an impact on every other city, every other state, contrary to what social media let the world know now.
Right. I always say...
That's real talk.
No, that's real. It's crazy because I always use this analogy. A person from Miami or another city could wear the same exact thing. But one thing about us, we going to stand out.
Oh, always. Always.
They going to pick us versus the other.
Always. It's always been like that from the gate. Always.
Right. So now I want to tap in more about your upbringing. Can you take us back to your upbringing in Miami and what influences led you toward the path to the streets?
My upbringing was good. Always had two parents in the home. My old girl, my old boy, which is my stepfather, he been there since I was 4 years old,
Right.
Still around to this day. Both parents still living. Upbringing was good. They always worked. Only thing I seen growing up in the house was them getting up, going to work every day, putting in long hours on the same job for over 30, 40 years. They're retired now. But my upbringing was definitely the right upbringing.
Right.
Always into the church. Actually, the church I was born and raised in is actually right around the corner on 48th Street.
Oh,
so
really?
it always go back to this area. Everything started right here in Chatelaine, Florida. But upbringing was definitely airtight. My old girl, she was big on education. My stepfather, he was big on education. So only thing I saw was him molding us the right way. My old girl teaching us to do the right thing. So up in the household, everything was what it needed to be at the time.
Right. And then also, a lot of the OGs that I talked to, it seemed like it was more fun. A lot of kids was playing outside, everything, you go to your homeboy house or, all these different elements and stuff like that. So how was it like, as a younger kid growing up through these streets? Like you was like, even telling me over here, like it was like a lot of OGs just pulling up or just vibing over here. Like how was that like as a kid?
Growing up, it was definitely, we can always go outside and play. When the street lights came on, we knew that was our cue to get in the crib, to go in the house. We can always be at the next door neighbor house. We can always go over there and spend a night next door. It was, back then it wasn't no fear.
Right.
It wasn't, because you got to understand, over here, Chatelaine is like a residential area.
Right.
It's no projects over here. The closest projects we got is maybe Sabre Palm, or we got Edison projects. But as you can see, it's single family homes all through Chatelaine. So I say that to say this, we really wasn't seasoned for all the things that may have was going on over there in the Beans.
Right.
Over in Largemont projects or the Graveyard project. We wasn't privy to that. So like growing up, I ain't hear gunshots. It wasn't a whole lot of sack moving over here, you know what I'm saying? Because it just wasn't popping like that over here.
Right.
It was all about going to school, coming home, going to Chatelaine, playing on the basketball court, doing your homework before you go outside. It was, the upbringing was definitely airtight. There wasn't no rah-rah, wasn't no chaos. All that came years down the line. But this area here has always been, built from the church, going to church, education, respecting all the neighbors. So my upbringing it was like super tight, and it was fun back then.
Right.
You can go outside. We ain't had to worry about, nobody sliding through, busting shots, because the OGs they kind of had it to where they didn't allow that over here.
Right.
So anything that really came along, that came on decades later. But growing up, we felt safe over here. We definitely felt safe. If I come home from school and I see the OGs right here, they ain't, it wasn't no trying to recruit and do all that. Nah, they'll give us a few dollars. We'll go to the Cuban store that was right there, buy some candy, and we'll keep it pushing.
Right.
So, you know, the
Right.
OGs, they had our best interest, you know what I'm saying, even back in the Gap. So
Right.
this upbringing, it was righteous. It was
Right.
good. I can't complain. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Word. Like, did you have any type of aspirations growing up as a kid? Like, like anything you wanted to do, before you got into the streets?
Yeah. So actually, at this school here, back in the 70s, they came up with this program called Expressive Arts.
Mm-hmm.
And every Monday, the bus will come and get us, and they'll bus us to Charles Drew.
Right.
Over on 17th Avenue. I don't know what they call it now, but it was Charles Drew Elementary back in those days.
Yeah, it's still Charles Drew.
Okay, so what they would do is on Mondays, they would bus us over there, and I was going to Expressive Arts for music.
Right.
So back then, I mean, contrary to what everybody know now, I used to play all the instruments when I was a jit. Because I was good at music and I was good at art. So that was my aspirations coming up. I wanted to play all the instruments. I wanted to be into the music, and I definitely was a beast, with the drawing game. So that, by them doing that, because you had to really be on point, to really be picked, to be recruited to go to Charles Drew.
Right.
So that kind of let me know.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, my old grade. I mean, because it was only maybe 10 or 15 of us out of the whole school right there. And back then, that school went from kindergarten all the way up to 4th grade. So for me to be picked out of those 10 or 15 jits, that kind of let me know, okay, I really had something.
Right.
So, music, I was definitely musically inclined way back then. I could play the clarinet, the sax, the piano. I can play the guitar, but on the horns, I was definitely a beast for that. And my pen game, my art game was definitely A grade. So those were my aspirations really growing up.
Right. And would you say that kind of, when you doing the YouTube videos, like that kind of help from your past, like just dealing with that?
Yeah. Well, actually, and it's funny that you say that. Actually, the music spearheaded the movement that we had going in New York. And I'm not gonna go over a lot of things, but me being already kind of groomed from a jit with the music, it kind of spearheaded us to tap into the music industry years later, because for some reason that music always been inside.
Right.
So when things led to other things, I kind of tapped back in to the music. So that definitely was in the equation while we was off doing other things. And I'm gonna get to that later on in the story.
No, for sure. So tapping in, going more into like Miami a little bit. What was Miami like back in the 70s and 80s compared to today from your perspective? Because I know you talked about, I mean, you don't even got to talk about today. We already know how today is, but like the 70s and 80s, those two different decades, it kind of shaped Miami to where it is today. So can you talk about, from your perspective, how those two decades, and how Miami was around those times?
Well, like I'm gonna go back and say, of course, we know what we was built on. We know the city was built on drugs. And, actually downtown, it didn't look like that. We didn't have that many skyscrapers back in the 70s and everything. But as the money was flowing through the city, the embezzlement, through the money through the banks and this, that, and the third, the city just started just growing. And, with growth, comes all type of, this and all type of that. So, and all that definitely reached the inner hoods.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Where you couldn't escape it. You get out of school, and now it's like we kind of going away from wanting to go play basketball to now you seeing all type of different things, and it's right there. It's in your chest. You can't miss it. Now it's going from we seeing 10, 15 OGs right here to now we come and we seeing 30 or 40 of them out here, and then we seeing everything. Instead, it is one Rolls Royce right here. We got two parked over there. So it's like, as we was growing up, things definitely was changing, but my upbringing always had me to the point where I knew the difference.
Right.
I definitely knew the difference because it was instilled in me from from old girl, from growing up as a jit. I knew the difference, but from the 70s to the 80s, it's kind of okay. Now you see your mama at nighttime, but then you out playing in the streets, so the streets kind of got an advantage over you know, what your old girl taught you was when you was a jit, to where now, okay, you kind of gravitating to the streets. So that was the difference between the 70s going to the 80s, because now it's everywhere. You've seen it all the time. You even seen it in school, to where it's like, okay, well, I know if I want this, I gotta wait 2, 3 paychecks for my old girl to get it. But my homeboy in school, he got a fresh pair of this every day.
Right.
Even though he from the projects and this, that, and the third, but I want to see what's behind that. You know what I'm saying? So do I want to wait 2, 3 paychecks? Because you gotta understand, you know, my old girl them, they was on a fixed income.
Right.
They had to pay mortgage. They had to pay car notes. They had to keep the lights on. As a jet, I ain't understand that.
Right.
So the difference between the 70s and the 80s, you know, my eyes started getting a little bigger, and I started noticing things.
And
so
more and more.
And more as time grew. So that's the difference between the 70s and the 80s.
80s, yeah. So I'm not gonna talk about. I'm gonna let people go to your YouTube channel, really know your story, how you got in the game. But what was your first experience with money or hustling, and how did it shape your thinking about success?
Well, it's funny how that really happened. So over here, as I always say, this is a residential area. It ain't no, back then it wasn't no trap houses. You know, people didn't hang on the corner. We didn't have long lines because, you know, like I said, you know, we came up on a different breed. And OGs, they really didn't allow all that over here. But everything changed when, I can honestly say, my best friend moved to the neighborhood. When he moved to the neighborhood, he actually came from the projects. He moved from the projects.
Right.
He moved from Victory Home Project, which is on like 73rd and 7th Avenue.
Right.
Now, when he came from over there and he moved over here, he kind of came and brought a whole new, how can I say it, a whole new kind of way, as opposed to all my other friends that was already, you know, that was born and raised over here.
Right.
When he came with everything I was seeing in school. And me and him, we instantly clicked up. When we clicked up, naturally, he started taking me back to where he was born and raised, which was in Victory Home Projects. And I talk about that on my videos, but when I got over there and I seen all that, I was like, okay, now I'm seeing it up close and personal.
Right.
Now I'm seeing it. Okay, so now, you know, your antennas start to go up. You know what I'm saying? Now it goes back to what I told you. All right, do I wait for my old girl to get that, which is the right way, or do I be like my dog? Because he had like 20, 30 pair of like Elises and feelers. And
my bad to cut you, but that's a tough decision as a kid, because it's like, that's a crossroad decision.
But you gotta understand, we were 12 years old. He moved over here, I was 12, he was 11. So you gotta think, 11 years old, your mind is definitely not mature enough to separate the good from the bad.
Right.
But he was already seasoned. So me, 11 years old, and I'm seeing all that, you know, I'm saying, okay, damn, all right, if my dog can get it, if he got it, he already came to the hood with all that, then let me see what's behind that. So then you go from 12 to 13 to 14. And like I say, that type of backdrop, it kind of takes a toll on you. It definitely kind of takes a toll on you. So when he moved, me and him, we clicked up, we got real down. And a few years later, maybe like at 15 to 16, it's funny because when he moved over here, we stayed over for a couple of years, but then his family, they kind of split up and they kind of, you know, went their separate ways, and his mom actually moved to New York.
Oh, okay.
Because he had a lot of family up there. But him and his older brothers and sisters, they stayed. And his sister moved on 56th Street and 7th Avenue. Now, mind you, he already was seasoned. I wasn't. Nigga wanted to think about getting into the game and doing all that. But when she moved over there, it was a coincidence that her boyfriend that she used to mess with 5 or 6 years prior, that was his spot in this building. That was his drug spot.
Right. So that leads me to my next question. When did you tell yourself you wanted to go full-fledged into the streets?
Well, I didn't tell myself. It happened on GP. So one day, after they moved over there, and we coming home from school, at this time we was like in the 10th grade. We was at Edison Senior, and Every day we'll come home and we'll stop by his house right there on 56. He'll change clothes, and that was our regular routine. We did it for years. We'll come back to shuttle on, and then we'll go out there and we'll play on the park.
Right.
We did it for years. One particular day, as we coming on from Edison, we go to his crib, and all the guys that was out there on the stoop doing their thing. And I don't know what made me say it. I just say, man, y'all give me that bomb, man. Y'all don't know what y'all doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for all the off brands, for all the, you know, people outside the crib, the bomb means pack, drug pack. So I told them dudes, man, give me that pack, man. Give me that bomb. Y'all don't know what y'all doing. And I would say it every other day.
Right.
No intentions of doing anything, because you got to understand, I always had a level of respect for my old girl.
Right.
Like, my old girl, she definitely was the type that, you know, I never wanted to embarrass her. I never wanted to bring any shame to our house. So I was just, you know, talking sideways over there when I said that. So after saying that a few days, because it was like a joke. So maybe the third or fourth time me saying that, one of the lieutenants over there at the spot, he actually said, man, y'all get Cav that bomb, man. Go ahead and get Cav that bomb, man. Because the other dude, he ain't here, man. He always coming late. Get Cav that bomb. And right then and there, that was my transformation. When they gave me the bomb, you know, I'm 15 years old. Still, my mind is really not mature enough to say, no, this ain't the right thing to do.
Right.
Nah, because I ain't know what was going to come behind all that. But when they put that bomb in my hand, that changed my whole life in 1986. That totally, because you got to understand, and this happened, we got out of school at 2:30. By 3 o'clock, we got to his house. They put that bomb in my hand maybe like 3:30, 3:45. From 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock, I made like 8,000.
Wow. This in the 80s too.
Yeah, this is 1986. So you got to understand, even though that wasn't my bread, but when that money went through my hands, that let me know right there, damn, boy, you ain't got to wait 2-3 paychecks for your mama to get you some. You know, you can actually get this now, like now. And I ain't never looked back. And it's funny because me and my dog, we always joke, even though he was more seasoned, already privy to all that, because he was coming from Victory Home Project, I actually got in the game before him.
Wow.
So that was my introduction right there, 1986, right there on 57th Street and 7th Court. You know, that was my introduction to the game, right there.
Right. So, you talk about when you first started and getting into the street, your experience in that perspective. Now, I want to talk about what did a typical day look like for you when you were fully immersed into the streets?
So, starting out in 86, a typical day would be, because you got to understand, back then, certain spots in Miami, and we talking from a street sense, certain spots, spots ran from 12 to 12, 24 hours a day. But you got to understand, back in 86, we still was in high school. So
Right.
I was in the 10th grade. So that meant Buddy who we was working for at the time, his shift started at 12 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Right.
So that meant they had to get out of school, get a pass, the lie to get out of school just to go and get on the line, or get on the clock.
Right.
So my typical day was get up in the morning, go to school, find a reason to get a pass to leave, and go get on the clock over there. And, you know, we sit there, and it was like, see, right now, it's funny because in these days, there's no, back then the city never slept. And when I make my videos, and I'm not getting ahead of myself, but I want to touch on something. When I make my videos, a lot of people be like, oh, nah, he flies, and it's not like that. This era cannot even imagine how much foot traffic and how much it was on these streets.
Right.
So when we would get out of school and go over there and get on the clock, it was never a time we could sit down, because we always had to be up serving. I mean, it was constant, 24 hours a day back in those days. So in that, it was kind of good because, you know, I'm talking from a worker standpoint.
Right.
You know, I'm getting on the line, but it's constantly working, never sitting down for all 12 hours a day, money constantly coming.
What were some of the most difficult decisions you had to make while navigating in the streets in the beginning? Because you talked about like that first month, like, you know, you just, your mind is kind of cloudy, the robbers and stuff like that. So what was the difficult decisions you had to make around those times?
Well,
navigating through the streets?
when you back then, even when we first started out, when you was really getting money, especially back then, you had to really pick and choose who you wanted to lay up with. Far as females, because back then, everybody wanted to get a check from all us who was getting money.
Right.
But then everybody pillow talk back then. And I kind of, really, when I started really elevating, then I kind of started noticing, you know, it's 1,000 niggas out there, that it's 1,000 wolves out there. Like they was on that.
Right.
You start hearing about, such got hit up, such got roped off. So it was kind of who you wanted to lay up with, who you wanted to holler at, because everybody back then we used to say, the killers respect the killers. It was honor amongst thieves. That was true to a certain degree. But when you start hearing about such got hit up, maybe in Overtown or over there in Wynwood, over there in the graveyard, behind some chick, my fear was how to navigate and how to go around that without bringing harm to my old girl house.
Right.
Or bringing harm to my, to my brothers then, or my aunties, because you gotta understand, I was born and raised in this hood. Everybody know me like I know everybody else.
Right.
But then, like everybody know me, everybody know where my old girl stayed. They know, they knew everything about me. So it was kind of hard to say, to pick and choose who you wanted to holler at and how you wanted to navigate. You know what I'm saying? So just on the strength that you always wanted to make sure, your family was protected. My grandma, she grew up right around the corner from where I grew up at. And I was born and raised in my grandma's house, but they stayed 2 streets apart. So it was kind of hard, navigating, who to trust, who to get in bed with, who to get money with. You know what I'm saying? Every day, that was like really one of my biggest fears, especially when we elevated and started hitting the road, because everybody that was down here, because, when I left, my old girl still stayed in the same house. My grandma still stayed there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm leaving them to the wolves.
Right.
So that always been a big thing on my mind, because where we was at, up in the, getting up in the air, that's 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Anything could pop off down here just like that. So that always been like a big concern of mine. A big fear of mine.
How did you balance like the dangers of the streets with the need to survive and succeed at the same time in that environment?
Yeah, we had hitters.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm gonna sum that up. We had when everybody say you gotta have money to go to war.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
And I want to say this, man. When Miami boys came to your town, I always say, yeah, we was outnumbered. Don't get it fucked up. We always was outnumbered wherever we went. We just out-organized everybody. And when we came, I came with the same tutelage that my OGs gave me on 56. You got the ball, you got the gunman, you got everything set up.
The structure.
So when we went and did us, we won. That was the least of our worries. So we had on deck. Yeah, they was on retainer.
Right.
Yeah,
Type shit.
Easy.
So were there any individuals who influenced you or mentored you, or either positively or negatively during that time?
Well,
you mentioned your aunt as well too in your videos.
Yeah, but on the positive side, of course, you had my old girl. She her and my stepfather. I seen them work, so I knew the right thing to do. So that was all, and my grandma, that was all the positivity I need. But then, on the flip side of that, you had the outside influences, all my OGs around here. And then, back then to a lesser degree, my auntie, because she always was outside. She always was about that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
As a jet, you want to go where the fun at. You want to go where the happening's at. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In the house, it's just, look at TV, go outside, play with your kids. But then when you get older, you want to go over there in the projects and chill, because, it was snapping over there in the project. And then, at my auntie house, she had everything.
Right.
She was full. So I'm like, okay, I can go over here. I know when I leave from over here, I'm coming back home with some valleys or some clocks or some feelers. You know what I'm saying? I know auntie go handle that for me.
Right.
So that's what, I won't say she was a negative influence, but she definitely was. She definitely played a big part. She definitely played a big part.
Right. So I know you mentioned in your videos why you originally moved to Rochester, but can you tell my audience why you moved from Miami to Rochester, New York? And what was it like dealing in the streets around up north?
Well, actually, and like I said in my other videos, rest in peace to my homie Pratt, him, G-Man, Q-Sack, Kenny King, E. You know, we went through we had a little issue with them dudes over there because, as I told you, my dog, his sister, first she moved to 56th Street right there in like 1985, 1986. But from there, she moved to Brown Sub. And then, you know, on my videos, Calvin Pratt, I explained how when she went over there, you know, we kind of bumped heads with them. So, and I, you know, even in death, I thank my dog Pratt, because if it weren't for them, we would have never went to New York. But yeah, because of them, I ain't gonna say they ran us off, but we kind of, you know, put the play together that we was gonna do to them, and that was gonna be our gateway to leave.
Right.
That didn't happen the way we wanted to, but we still already had plans of leaving. Was still in the making, and that's why, you know, we eventually left in 1989. But the difference between Miami and New York, first of all, the weather. So we bottom dudes, we Miami dudes.
Yeah.
When we went, we had nothing but summer clothes. And actually, when we got there, it was snowing.
Right.
So that definitely kind of really, you know, took a toll on us. And I always say the difference between me and my dog, as opposed to all my friends at Edison, who was from Lodgemont in the Graveyard. Now, we left in 1989. All them dudes, they hit the road in 1985 and 1986. But look at the age.
Right.
In 1986, we was 15 years old. So all my friends out the Graveyard Project, they was already in Atlanta getting money.
Yeah.
So they was already privy to the cold weather and, you know, the projects up in there, Techwood, and let me run through all the projects. You got Herndon Homes, you had Techwood, you had the Bowen Homes, and now all these projects and all these places in all these different cities, they so relevant now because of YouTube. But back in 85 and 86, when they was coming from these towns, they was coming to Edison telling us about all these projects, Thomasville and all that. They was really saying, man, we really up here doing this. We making 80 and 90,000 a day, and they were naming all of the big players that was really getting money back in those days. You know, like the Burks and all them. But they, you know, they done gave them crack of their time, but they home now. But back in 85, my friends, they was coming back to school. They weren't coming to school to go to school. They was coming to, you know, to floss and show us what it was like. And, you know, I wasn't in the streets then, but I'm sitting back and they telling all these stories how they really hitting all these Georgia dudes up and hitting all these niggas out of Jayville and Pensacola. Now we 15 years old, but they so seasoned already in the project. It's kind of, you know, I couldn't imagine back then. And they telling us all this. Now when we get up to New York in 1989, now we starting to embody everything that they were saying. The cold weather, how the females were just gravitating to us. You know what I'm saying? But we in New York. Now New York is and you know, they was already seasoned. We was the upstate New York, but you had Harlem, you had Brooklyn, you had Queens, you had the BX, you had Staten Island. That was 5 hours away from where we was at. So the time we was in, you know, they weren't the country or nothing. They were seasoned, as opposed to when we went to Atlanta, and Tampa and Orlando, country and all that. Exactly. The time we was in, we couldn't just go, and we had to really come in and be real strategic how we went up there and did it. But it was different because, to be honest, the way they hustled, first of all, it wasn't no young dudes hustling on the street. It was all old pimps and old coons. And I always mention my dog, his uncle was really that dude on the streets. This nigga was like a millionaire, but he was old. But the first thing we noticed was there wasn't no young people on the streets getting money, as opposed to down here. Everywhere down here with niggas that looked like me, and that was my age.
And it was open gate.
That was eating. But when we got there, all the young jits up there, they were gang banging. And we was like, this what y'all doing? Oh, we finna get all the money. We finna eat. We knew from the gate what it was. So when we got there, we had to deal with the cold weather at first, and then they hustled on the inside of the houses up there. As opposed to down here, we was out on the streets 24/7. But then when that Jack Frost hit us and that weather hit us, that let us know why they used to hustle in the inside. But we just took the way they did and just, you know, equated with the way we did, and we just went ahead with a whole different style of doing it. And they weren't really used to no Miami boys like that, because there wasn't no Miami boys in the town when we got there. So it was a big difference. The cold weather and the way they did it, that was the difference between up there and down here.
Right.
Let me take you back on 56th Street. We used to make 20,000 a day selling nickel rocks, as opposed to my friends that was going to Georgia. Them, they were selling 20 and 30 rocks. They were making like 70 and 80,000 up there every day. But down here, we was making easy 20,000 a day.
Word.
On every street.
Word.
This generation can't vision how much street money was made back in those days. And I'm going somewhere with this. Every street, I'm gonna give you an answer. I'm gonna give you an example. 61st Street, from 12th Avenue all the way to 17th on 61st Street, you had maybe 15 spots.
Right.
And all those spots was $1 million spots.
Yeah.
On both sides of the street.
Especially in the city. Like the city is.
You get what I'm saying? That's how much breakdown money was. It was snapping back in those days.
Right now, Kev, I know we did the intermission of, you telling the stomping grounds of this area. Elaborate more where we at and the significance of it to you.
Right now, we on 56th Street and 7th Court. And this where it all actually started for me, as far as, doing certain things that I did, back in my youth. And actually, this building behind me played a real pivotal part in my upbringing as far as the streets. But right now, we right here in Liberty City on 56th Street and 7th Court.
Word. Nah, yeah, I'm from Liberty City I'm from out here, so it's crazy how you actually the first person I interviewed from Liberty City, so this is an honor.
Okay, honor. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate that.
That's it. Yeah, we in the stomping ground of the city. But diving back into the interview, did you ever have moments where you wanted to get out but felt trapped or was unsure of how to leave the streets?
Well, actually behind me, and I say the reason why this building played a real significant part of my upbringing, actually behind me, right there where that white van at, the sidewalk always been here, but right where that pole at, actually that pole wasn't there. That was nothing but grass and dirt. And maybe I give us maybe 2 months into us, doing what we do, we actually got robbed. Because you asking me, was there any time, me hustling what made me just want to quit? It's funny because when we got robbed like on a humbug, but one of our co-workers. When the dudes came up and they went through their whole ordeal, laying us down, they put the big 357 to our head and laid us down. You would think that would have scared me and my dog to make us run away from the game. But I ain't gonna lie, you know what I'm saying? First of all, we wanted some get back, and that made us go even harder. And even on that night, that could have been, them niggas could have ended our life, the way they pulled out on us and laid us down. They ain't hit us with the pistols or nothing, but the average dude, that would have scared them away from the game. That made us wanted to get some get back, and we definitely went 10 toes in and full-fledged with it. But yeah, never a point to where I want to just back away from it. The bread was sweet. The bread was good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Scared money don't make no money. That was the motto back in the day.
Right. How did you stay aware of your surroundings and protect yourself in such high stakes environments?
Well, we had, how it was set up. We had protection. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, I told you earlier.
Right.
If you can make it in this game the first 2-3 months without nothing happening, all the fear went out the window. You know what I'm saying? Because we had the gunman, so every day we came through here, the gunman was on deck. Right. So anybody that came through with anything on their mind, they instantly they whole thought process changed, because the gunman, they weren't playing. Back then, murder capital.
Right.
So yeah, never a time where I was scared or fearful. Nah, that ain't happened. Not in those days.
What are some of the biggest lessons you learned about human nature while being in the streets, like dealing with different types of people?
Well, we had to learn how to read people.
Right.
Because you got to understand, back in those days, it was our job to get bread, and it was the police job to catch us doing wrong. So I definitely learned how to read people because I want y'all to understand how much traffic was on this street. So I say that to say this. It was so many customers and so much drug money coming through here that it was always new faces. So we definitely had to learn, the human nature part about reading new customers, where they're undercovers, where they're the police. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta understand, yo, your judgment will get cloudy, getting all that type of money. So you definitely had to always, read people and be alert. You know what I'm saying? You all that you learned that coming up in the game. You learned all that about the human nature, how to read people, their attitudes. You know what I'm saying? The customer's always right, even from a street aspect. You know what I'm saying? You definitely had to learn all that. And to this day, a lot of those things that my guys, my OGs instilled in me, I still stand on those same principles to this day.
Right. Um, what do you think are the misconceptions of somebody being in the streets that people have about individuals who live that life?
Could you repeat that again?
I said, what do you think are the misconceptions of someone being in the streets that people have about individuals who live that life?
A lot of, a fly on the wall would think that we're heartless and, we um, don't have no sympathy. So let me say something, man. You got addicts everywhere. Everybody got their own vices. Everybody got their own addiction. So, back then getting money was no different than the corporate raiders, people in white collar, muscling, taking over big corporations. You know what I'm saying? We just doing it from a street aspect, but it's definitely a conscience. We definitely had a heart. It was just that these was the cars that this was the cars that was shuffled to us. But the concept that we animals and no conscience, no, that was far from what we did. Even though we did wrong, we never served the pregnant women. That was out. Anybody under 18, that definitely was out. We respected all the elders. You know what I'm saying? We definitely, kept everything up around here. We definitely carried the groceries. You know what I'm saying? Along with doing wrong, we always had a conscience. So that's the misconception that people do get. But like I say, we know different from all the corporate raiders and all the blue collar people and the white collars that's out there, you know, scamming and having, pyramids, illegal pyramids and all that. No difference.
Right.
No different.
How did your experiences in the streets shape the person you are today?
Well, it definitely taught me how to be aware. It taught me how to definitely read the room. It definitely taught me how to look into a man's eyes when I'm talking to him. Never look down. I was always taught that. And I was always taught that, okay, if I could put the energy that I used to put almost 40 years ago doing that, I can definitely put that same energy into anything else I want to do in life. Yeah, at 15 years old, my mind couldn't absorb that. But the person I am today, I'm using that same energy that I had right here on this very block, but I'm just doing it towards a positive vibe.
Right, right. So tapping in more back to the YouTube space, what was like the moment when you like kind of got inspired to start sharing your story on YouTube?
Well, it's funny because actually I wanted to do this, and this before social media started popping, and this goes back to like maybe 2000 or 2001. It's when the U was playing Ohio State, and we was playing for the national championship, and they cheated us out of that game. At that very moment, you always heard the rumors how everybody always hated Miami and hated the U, but when that game ended, it made me really feel like, okay, since they really hate the crib like that, I'm going to give them something really to hate about. And that thought came across my mind was, because, around about this time of 2000, we had to kind of like fell off. New York and everything was in a rear view. So now at this particular time of my life, I was trying to find myself. But at the end of that game, I was like, I really got to, now that they hate Miami, I'm going to give them something to hate about. Let me start letting everybody know what Miami really is all about. And the first thing that I thought about doing, because we didn't have social media back then, the first idea came to my mind was I want to let everybody know that from the street aspect, the underworld, how Miami was. So what I did was I reached out to one of my comrades that used to be down with us. He had the main line to a legendary figure. He's dead now, but he had the main line to a legendary figure. But this guy, he was in the feds then. And when I told my dude to reach out to him, he sent the message back to the feds, was like, nah, tell Cav, I can't do that because I'm still fighting my case. And that kind of crushed me. It kind of like really knocked the fight out of me. But then the dude in the feds, he said, well, won't tell Cav to go and interview Buddy. Now this other dude was getting a whole lot of money in Pensacola. And I ain't gonna mention his name because he's still in the feds to this day. He said, but I think he's willing to do an interview with Cav. But I didn't know how to go about doing it. We didn't have social media then. I didn't know how to write books. I didn't know I can travel to the prison. But that right there, that's what sparked it lit a fire under me that I want to put the crib on my back and I want to start letting everybody know about the underworld of Miami. So it started back in the early 2000s.
Right, right. So, with all the stories that you told on your YouTube page or channel rather, how do you decide which stories to tell and what message do you hope to convey through them?
Well, sometimes the story, because you gotta, I ain't know, I'm not young, so a lot of stories come, it just come on GP, or I mention Killer Black all the time in my story. That's my blood cousin, and every now and then he'll holler at me. He'll say, "Man, Cal, man, you remember this and you remember that," and that'll go ahead and spark my interest to tell a story. And then, every now and then I go ahead and write something down, put something in my phone, and I was like, "Man, I remember this time. I remember that time." So that kind of really sparked my interest, to tell certain stories. Now, a lot of stories a nigga can't tell, a nigga can't talk about. Statute of limitations definitely don't. It's definitely not ended on a lot of things that a nigga may allegedly have done.
Right.
But, I kind of pick and choose what story I want to tell, but I definitely want to let y'all know that everything is 100. They're all solid. Ain't nothing flawed, fugazi about anything that I do tell. And to answer your second question is, I really tell these stories to let this generation know that you'll never catch lightning in a bottle twice. The way we live and the things that we did, if you even thinking about it, it can be repeated. If that ain't happening, modern technology is not gonna allow it. You got a Ring camera on every door down here. You got camera. We didn't have cameras on light poles. We didn't have none of that. Modern technology was in its infancy back in the 80s. So modern technology is not gonna allow it. So I want to my stories, I try to tell a youth that, first of all, there ain't no more bread. We took all the bread in the 80s. Yeah, it ain't no more money out here. And there's 1,000 niggas like me can co-sign and vouch what I'm saying. It ain't no more bread out here, man. As you can see, it's peaceful. It ain't no rah-rah. It ain't no stag. It ain't no foot traffic going through here. For you to even attempt to do that, these crackers ain't playing. They go bam you. And back then we had 5 to 10 to 15-year runs back then. Now, these people ain't giving y'all ain't giving y'all no runs like that. You may last a year on the street. So I try to tell these videos, not to glorify or entice or promote anything that we did. I'm really just telling y'all, I'm sharing history with y'all for number one. And I'm telling y'all, get your education, man. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? It's a lose-lose situation. I just want everybody just to take what I'm telling them and, go around that. Go around that. Get your education and, do something different, man.
I've seen your YouTube has been growing, growing and growing with all your episodes of you telling your story. What kind of response have you received from your audience, especially from people who may or who have lived a similar life as you?
And to be honest, the majority of my comments and the likes, it's been coming from actually a younger crowd because they kind of are amazed on, the stories I'm telling. And a few of them say, It's unbelievable. But then the majority of them, they really tell me the way I tell these stories and the picture I paint for them, they know it's authentic. And I get a lot of positive comments, especially from out of towners. It's amazing how many, out of towners really are locked into my channel, and they tell me, wow, like even older out of towners, they say we really never know Miami was like that. And they kind of tell me, man, second Ave Kav, you like the first one from Miami to really open up the doors and shed a light that was kind of dim on your city. So the response I'm getting back, that's motivation, man. That's motivation for me. And then I'm doing it because I want everybody to come behind me, man. I want all my YouTubers, all my content creators down here in the crib to that's flood. I mean, we gotta flood the market. It's the Miami, we gotta let the world know, man, the real Miami, man. We gotta really flood the market with this content because little do everybody know, man, the world want to know about the crib, man. The
Yeah,
world is really fascinated with Miami.
the
It's
real
always
Miami.
been like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Will you when you tell your stories, do has storytelling become a form of therapy or healing for you while you like telling your story?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question because we come from an era where we ran from the cameras.
Hmm.
This era is all about being in front of the cameras. And since I come from that era, it's kind of hard to, for so long, we never wanted to talk about what we did. Like, I'm gonna keep it tall with you. 5 years ago, there's no way I would have been out here talking about what we did almost 30, 40 years ago. Because that was the code back then. But like my jits tell me that is in a different time. People want to know the history. You gotta tell your story. It's all about content. So, that's my therapy. And then this is my way of really bringing my kids and letting them know how it really was in my era. This is something that I can really leave behind to them. So this is really my therapy. Talking to you guys out there in the world, that's like positive therapy for me, and I get a kick out of it.
What advice would you give to someone who currently in the position you were once in?
Clean up your money, buy some land, cause God ain't building no more land. Land is so important. Copy some land, clean up your money, but the forefront of that is, man, please get your education, man, because at the end of the day, I think back when I was a jet, and my old girl used to always tell me when I used to ask to go outside, the first thing she would tell me, no, you can't go outside today. Go in a room and read a book, or go in there and read the day's paper, or go read the Miami Times. Like she used to always tell me that, and I'm glad she did that, man. Not only was I getting education at the schoolhouse, I was getting education inside my house. So, and all that stuff she instilled in me as a jet, it followed me even through the streets. So I tell somebody that's really think they really, you know, doing something in these streets, man, get your education, clean up that bread, and go buy you some land, man. It can't get no better than that.
Right, right. I remember you talking about, your book and your, documentary that you're working on. Are there other creative avenues or projects you're interested in exploring beyond YouTube?
Yeah, actually, right now, me and my kids, we got, and I don't want to plug this, but since you asked, we got tents, tables, and chairs. We definitely doing that. My daughter, she got her educational foundation where she do tutoring. My other daughter, she got her eyelash company. She definitely snapping with that. And my jet, he got his clothing line. So it's a lot of things that I'm doing outside of YouTube. But since this YouTube is taking off so rapidly, I'm leaving all those other entities to them. So they handle that. But I'm like an octopus, man. I nigga got their hand in like in a whole lot of things.
Hmm. So I got a few more questions left
Oh, we
for
good. I'm
you.
comfortable. I'm in my
No,
habitat.
no,
We
no,
straight,
no,
dog.
no, no. We literally almost
Yeah,
finished.
we
Like,
straight.
um, what do you hope your legacy will be as a storyteller and as someone who's lived such a transformative life?
That, if you stay prayed up and you give it up to God and keep God like inside, that you definitely can make it out. You know what I'm saying? I thank God that I always had a praying grandma. And my old girl always prayed over me because on my YouTube, I kind of straddle the fence of telling y'all certain things. But trust me, if I flipped it over and told y'all the other stuff, you know what I'm saying, I probably wouldn't be. They'd probably ban me from YouTube. But you know, I thank God I had a praying grandma because I'm here. I'm telling my story. So stay prayed up. I tell anybody that's in the streets right now, stay prayed up, man. You gotta stay prayed up, and then you gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them. You know what I'm saying? Because as time goes on, the streets ain't getting no sweeter. Modern technology is at its peak, and it's gonna get even better. So like I say, we're not winning out here in these streets, man. And I don't want my videos to entice anybody to think that they are, but we're not winning out here, man. So stay prayed up, man. You definitely stay prayed up and get out.
Facts. If you could write a book or a film about your life experiences, what would be the central message or theme with the film or book?
Well, if I was to do that, my main purpose of doing that was just put a light on a city that's been dim. That would be my initial goal, to let everybody know about the real Miami, because everybody hear about the Miami boys. You've been hearing about the Miami boys for decades, but now the narrative on YouTube, they just running with that, but they don't know the core. They don't know the real Miami. So I would definitely, think about, I want to make a movie. But the message I want to get out is that, yeah, the Miami Boys was before all these other crews that invaded all these towns. We definitely was on that, but then there's a lot of positivity came out of, being a Miami boy. And it's funny that you ask, because from the gate, always saying, outside of Scarface, there never really been a story told about the real Miami. And you got rappers today, they doing their thizzle, they doing their thing, but it's nothing like coming from somebody that really was out there on the field, not on the bench, but out there on the field.
All right. So my last question goes to you is, what does Miami means to you?
Miami means what it meant to me, and what it meant to all the Miami boys when they first invaded all these towns. You know what kind of feeling it is when you can go to these towns and you got all of the dudes, all the females, everybody just really be at your beck and call. And I don't want to go off and sound negative, but ain't no greater feeling than that, where you can go to these towns and you know everybody just what you need. They lay out the red carpet for you. That's when I learned that, along with getting money and a whole lot of fucking money. You want that. You want that feeling. You want that respect. You know what I'm saying? You want to really carry that everywhere you go in life. So, you know, even from back then to now, you know, my face good in this city. My reputation good in this city. Yeah, everybody done did things. That's the crib. We done did things. But the respect and the bread that we really generated from those days, that still is with me to this day. Is just on a positive note. But I just want everybody to know, Miami means everything to me, man. It raised me. I didn't move here. I grew up right here in Liberty City, right there in Shadowlawn, a couple of blocks away. Miami means everything to me. I'm 305 to the day I die. Y'all see on my YouTube channel how I got hurricane stuff on back in the 80s. I ain't moved here. I ain't just jumped on a hurricane band or the Dolphins and all that. I'm Miami from head to toe, in and out. My face card good. I can go anywhere in this city, and people they go salute me. They go say hey. They go shake my hand. They go give me dap and they go give me a hug. It ain't a lot of niggas out there from my era that can do that.
Right.
I'm just keeping it all the way tall with you.
All right. Well, Kev, I appreciate you for being here. This is truly an honor to have you on this my platform. The whole purpose of I wanted you to be a part of this because the way that you represent the crib, the way that you represent yourself and these stories is like, damn, this is what I always wanted to see. And the fact that you're doing it is a blessing, man. And continue doing what you're doing. Anything you need, feel free. Content creator, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's what it is, man. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you having me, man. To all my jets and my youngins, Stay prayed up. Keep God in your life. Respect your elders, because your days do last long when you travel that road. Stay prayed up. Keep God in your life, man. And it's more out there. Right now, y'all got all the tools. Y'all got all the tools. Y'all got all the outlets that we never had. We ain't had that many options, man. Capitalize on that, man. Run with that, man. Get your education. Keep God in your life, man.
Right.
Much love.
How can the audience support you and get a hold of you or follow your journey?
Y'all tap in with me on Instagram at Heavy Lace, HeavyLace. And you can go to my YouTube, also at Heavy Lace or Second Ave Kav. Y'all, please support the content, man. Keep me in your prayers. It's only going to get bigger and bigger. I definitely got Miami on my back. I'm looking to take this to movies. I'm looking to take this worldwide. You know, God already put the vision in me. It's go happen. I ain't hoping and wishing. It's go happen, man. Please support the movement, man. But you can definitely reach me on Heavy Lace on Instagram and on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe. Support the movement.